Every season, the Pittsburgh Steelers find new ways to test their fans' patience. They dominate strong teams, then fall to opponents they should easily handle. What makes this loss sting deeper is how familiar it felt. It wasn't just another defeat, it was the exact kind of collapse that fans have seen before under Mike Tomlin. The game had all the usual signs: a strong start, missed chances, and a late fourth quarter unraveling that left everyone wondering how this team let it slip again. This one came under the bright lights against the Cincinnati Bengals, and the pattern repeated itself perfectly. Pittsburgh entered the night as favorites, but by the end, the scoreboard told a painful truth. A 33-31 loss that exposed the same old weaknesses. The defense couldn't make a crucial stop, and Joe Flacco, a quarterback few expected to look elite, suddenly turned into a vintage gunslinger. He threw for over 340 yards with 3 touchdowns, slicing through coverage that once defined the Steelers' identity. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins took over, catching everything in sight while the defense looked a step slow all night. What makes it worse is how predictable it felt. Steelers fans didn't need a spoiler alert to see the ending coming. It was another Thursday night game where Pittsburgh couldn't match intensity, another divisional matchup that slipped away in the final minutes. The kind of loss that sparks bigger questions about coaching, preparation, and what it will take to finally break this cycle. And as we move forward, the real focus isn't just the score, it's what went wrong on that field and why it keeps happening to this defense. But before we get into that, hit that like and subscribe button for more Steelers and all the NFL content. Can we get 200 likes on this video? Cincinnati walked in with a simple plan: get the ball out fast and make the Pittsburgh Steelers chase. The pass rush kept waiting for a long dropback that never came, and the coverage arrived a heartbeat late. Jamar Chase kept finding space on quick outs and crossers. T. Higgins punished single coverage on the boundary, and the final march set up the kick that closed the door. The turning point sat in the middle of the second quarter when back-to-back long drives flipped control. Pittsburgh answered on offense, but every time the unit found rhythm, the defense returned to the field for another extended stand. Possession leaned to the Bengals, the field felt longer for the Steelers, and the scoreboard kept nudging the game toward a finish that rewarded patient, mistake-free football. That is the story in one frame, a plan that neutralized pressure and targeted soft spots before they could tighten. The next step is the why behind it, how the front fit the run, where the edges set contain, and how alignment choices affected everything. Let us pull the defense apart, piece by piece, and see what really failed. The Pittsburgh Steelers needed the front seven to set the tone, but the line never got control of the gaps. Early creases became steady lanes, and that changed the math for the rush and the coverage. Recent weeks had already warned us with 182 rushing yards allowed to the Jets, then 117 to Seattle, then 119 to New England, and Cincinnati followed that path with Chase Brown breaking free for 108 on 11 carries. When the middle softens, offenses stay on schedule, and the pass rush loses the right to dictate. TJ Watt still flashed power and speed. Cameron Hayward fought through doubles. Alex Highsmith and Nick Herbig kept working the edge. Yet the timing never synced with the ball coming out. Cincinnati leaned on quick rhythm to keep hits off the quarterback, so pressure needed surprise and variety. The Steelers rarely changed the launch point for Watt, while other teams moved stars like Micah Parsons and Max Crosby to hunt matchups. Pittsburgh won some snaps, but not the critical ones where a stunt or alignment shift could steal back a down. This is where coaching detail becomes the lever. Sharper run fits, stronger edge set, and a wider menu for simulated pressure can raise the floor fast. That foundation then frees the back end to play to its strengths rather than cover for soft spots. Which brings us to the next layer, how roles in the secondary were assigned, how technique showed up at the catch point, and why a small tweak in alignment could change the entire picture. When the Steelers' front couldn't slow the Bengals, the secondary got trapped in survival mode. Every coverage change looked one step behind the throw. Jalen Ramsey drew the toughest task against Jamar Chase, and even for a veteran of his caliber, the margin was razor thin. Chase used leverage and timing to win early in routes, and Ramsey's strength in the slot couldn't hide the fact that he was covering an elite receiver in space. This game reminded everyone that his best position might still be inside. where his instincts and physicality can create turnovers instead of mismatches. On the outside, Joey Porter Jr. had flashes of tight coverage but lost ground to penalties that stalled drives. He is young, aggressive, and still learning how to balance contact with control. Several flags on T. Higgins erased potential stops and handed Cincinnati fresh sets of downs. Across from him, Darius Slay handled his share but showed signs of age and recovery speed. Brandon Echols rotated in to steady the group, yet the rhythm between the corners never truly synced. Every snap looked like a reset rather than a continuation. The deeper issue wasn't pure talent, it was chemistry. Switching between zone and man coverages left windows too wide and reactions too slow. When the front line fails to stop the run, the secondary is forced to defend longer routes with less help. The tape shows the corners playing reactive football instead of attacking leverage. That strain points back to preparation and balance, and that's where the real question starts. How did earlier wins hide this pattern until now? The scoreboard over the past few weeks looked convincing, but the matchups told a softer story. Victories over the Vikings and Browns came against backup quarterbacks, Carson Wentz and rookie Dillon Gabriel, who rarely stretched the field or forced the defense to hold coverage for long. Those games built confidence, but they also covered flaws in pursuit angles and gap control. When Joe Flacco stepped in with seasoned pocket awareness, those hidden cracks split open. Experience changes everything. And Cincinnati exposed how much rhythm can neutralize raw talent. Short weeks never help, but this performance went beyond fatigue. The same defensive calls that overwhelmed inexperienced quarterbacks suddenly looked predictable. Offenses with sharper timing no longer feared the blitz, and linebackers found themselves a step late closing lane. The bend but don't break philosophy held just enough to win against developing passers. But against a veteran who reads coverage pre-snap, that cushion turned into a problem. It wasn't a lack of effort, it was a lack of adjustment. The schedule ahead offers no breathing room. Jordan Love and the Packers bring speed and motion. The Colts, led by Jonathan Taylor, can attack downhill all night. Then comes Justin Herbert and a Chargers offense coached by Jim Harbaugh, built to punish hesitation. Each opponent carries a test that Pittsburgh must now face without excuses. The setup for what comes next is clear. The offense must carry this team until the defense finds its balance, and that's where the story shifts. While the defense searched for answers, the offense quietly kept this team afloat. Aaron Rodgers once again showed that experience and timing still matter more than age. His pocket movement stayed calm, his throws carried touch, and when the game tightened, he delivered on drives that most quarterbacks wouldn't survive behind that line. Outside of one poor decision and a strange tipped interception, Rodgers commanded the game with precision, spreading the ball to every level of the field and keeping Pittsburgh alive when momentum slipped. The running game has quietly turned into the team's heartbeat. Jaylen Warren ran with balance and toughness, stacking 127 yards on the Bengals and nearly averaging 8 per carry. His ability to shed contact and extend plays has changed the pace of this offense. Kenneth Gainwell has been the perfect complement, already proving his value when he posted 99 yards and 2 touchdowns against Minnesota. Together they bring a mix of speed and patience that keeps defenses honest. And when the blocking clicks, this backfield looks like one of the most efficient in the conference. Pat Freiermuth turned in the kind of night that reminds everyone how important a dependable tight end is to Rodgers' rhythm. His 2 touchdowns came in crucial moments, and his understanding of space allowed the offense to stay creative in red zone situations. Behind him, the line continues to settle with Mason McCormick, Zach Frazier, and Trefano gaining confidence every week. Pittsburgh's offense has direction, consistency, and identity, which makes one thing clear. The next step isn't about scoring more points. It's about finding the missing weapon that unlocks their full potential. The Pittsburgh Steelers need a second wide receiver who can separate quickly and win underneath to free DK Metcalf from constant double coverage. Adding a dependable target like Allen Lazard for chemistry, Rashid Shaheed for speed, or Chris Olave for precision would balance the offense and open the field for Aaron Rodgers, Pat Freiermuth, and the run game. One strategic trade could reshape how defenses play Pittsburgh, turning tight throws into rhythm drives and giving this roster the complete structure it's been missing. Measure it right away against the schedule that is coming fast: Green Bay with motion and pace, Indianapolis with a downhill run threat, Los Angeles with precision throws. If the defense tightens fits and the rush disguises the picture, if the offense adds that second receiver and keeps its balance, the same script that hurt Pittsburgh becomes the reason this group closes games.